Greetings, I'm John the Spirit, diamonds are expensive, and welcome to Ultimate Alchemy Recap Supershorts. To get diamonds, you need an arc furnace, but to run an arc furnace, you need graphite electrodes, and the normal way to craft graphite electrodes in a metal press gives you only 50% integrity to your graphite electrodes. Graphite electrodes are gradually used up in an Immersive Engineering arc furnace, so before we start talking about any of the weird Immersive Engineering stuff we need to do, let's talk about how to get these graphite electrodes. If you want them at 100%, you need an engineer's blueprint for arc furnace electrodes, but the only way to get one is to spawn a machinist villager from Immersive Engineering. Do I have one of these that I've traded with all the way? I'm sure one of these many machinists. Maybe this one. Nope. It's because this recap instance gives me a new player, so you can't see the machinist trade. But if you trade with a machinist all the way to their top tier, they'll give you a trade that turns emeralds into the arc furnace electrodes blueprint. To get that machinist, we have been breeding villagers for a long time, longer than we thought we needed to breed them, because we thought we were looking for an Immersive Engineering villager called the Engineer, but it was the Machinist all along. To get villagers in the first place, we needed to use the Botania Cocoon of Caprice, which required a foul pumpkin, which required bones, which are sticks and mortuse, and a crucible. I believe we've shown it before, but if you put in a Cocoon of Caprice and give it an emerald and then acceleration wand it, it'll spawn a lot of farm animals, but also some villagers, and you can grow those villagers after about 20 minutes. In order to breed them, you need to feed them some kind of food. I think like bread, potatoes, and carrots are the options. We gave them lots and lots of potatoes. And then you need to put a lot of doors around them, preferably doors with roofs. I'm pretty sure that even if you didn't have these stone roofs, just having a stone brick next to these doors would be enough to make a house. But I think that we just did a lot of stuff for good measure. And these were all the villagers that have bred themselves into existence. Anyway, we pretty much postponed Immersive Engineering until we could get that blueprint, because we wanted the really good graphite electrodes. I'll talk more about why we really wanted the really good graphite electrodes soon, but first, let's actually get to making the arc furnace, starting with these coke ovens. Coke ovens from Immersive Engineering turn various coal-related items into various other coal-related items, and in the process produce extra creosote oil. Ultimate Alchemy adds a recipe, which allows you to turn pulverized charcoal into real coal in a coke oven and gives you a little bit of extra creosote oil. Unfortunately, it can be a lot of creosote oil, although most of our creosote oil came from the other recipe we're using, which turns blocks of coal into blocks of coal coke. Coke ovens are pretty slow, but you can accelerate them as long as you have an ender porcupine and mechanical user. The core block of a coke oven, like most Immersive Engineering buildings, is in the center of the multi-block. It's slightly different for the arc furnace, so I'll show you that soon enough. We made the coke oven a long time ago, and had been running it on a furnace with oak wood and charcoal, and then a crusher charcoal into pulverized charcoal. We recently added mechanical users so that they would produce the pulverized charcoal faster, because you need a lot of coal to get diamonds, which we'll also talk about. This creosote oil is useful though, because you can use it if you have a bucket of creosote oil and planks to make treated wood planks, which are useful in many Immersive Engineering recipes. We have a little mechanical user that uses activate block with item and a bucket on the portable tank. Unfortunately, because of how full the portable tank is, we're going to have to replace it with a fluid trash can. But I recently made this. Okay, I guess this world has the worst kind of portable tank, but I would have made it a lot bigger if this were the current world. And eventually we'll replace it with a fluid trash can to get rid of the extra creosote oil, because we have 64 stacks of treated wood plank, and I don't think we'll need any more ever. Anyway, one reason you might need coal coke, although you can use charcoal instead, is that charcoal and coal coke are the fuels of the blast furnace. The basic blast furnace looks a lot like a coke oven and requires blast brick. Brick can be smelted from gravel, and nether brick can be smelted from netherrack, although the more efficient recipe for nether brick is to get it from the full nether bricks, which you can induction smelt from 2 netherrack. So you get 1 netherrack to 4 mini nether bricks with this recipe. And of course, soul sand you can get from an atomic reconstructor with sand. If you arrange 27 blast bricks into a cube, you get a machine that looks pretty much like the coke oven and allows you to use coal coke as a fuel and iron to make steel, and it also produces slag. But you can use your first 27 steel to improve your blast furnace by making reinforced blast bricks, which is just steel plate and blast brick. Improved blast furnaces already work faster, but you can add blast furnace preheaters, which use power and cause the improved blast furnace to run even faster. No matter what, however, it'll still use the same basic amount of solid fuel. While one single coal coke will smelt 1 iron, I believe a block of coal coke smelts 10, so it's slightly more efficient to use those, as well as blocks of charcoal. Steel is a requirement for most buildings and multi-blocks in immersive engineering insofar as they require the heavy engineering block, which uses steel and steel mechanical components. Steel is not required to be automated in order to automate true clay, so at some point we just decided to make 64 blocks of steel, which are now 525 steel ingots in our system, and never touch it again. Afterwards, we decided to use coal coke on what really matters. You can squeeze coal coke dust into hop graphite dust in an industrial squeezer from Immersive Engineering. If you want to figure out how to build one of these Immersive Engineering multi-blocks, you can open up the Engineer's Manual, go into the Heavy Machinery tab, and click one, for example, the squeezer, and it'll show you what you need to make. However, you can also craft the Engineer's module with a projector to get a projector. As long as the Engineer's Manual is on the page for that building, the projector will suddenly have a blueprint of that machine in, and you can just right-click on the ground in order to place that blueprint. If you fill in all of the items on the bottommost layer, the projector will immediately switch up to the middle layer and then the top layer until you're finished with the multi-block. It was very helpful for making things like the squeezer and the arc furnace. As long as the squeezer is in your inventory, it will show you the blueprint, but if you remove it from the inventory, that will turn off. Originally, by the way, we were powering machines like the industrial squeezer using Immersive Engineering wires. The Immersive Engineering power system uses wire connectors, which draw energy or add energy to objects, and wire relays, which transfer energy from connectors to other relays or connectors, and do not put power into machines. You can connect wire relays of a certain voltage with wires of that same voltage, and you can cut those wires using a wire cutter to get them back. Most coils come in an insulated and an uninsulated type. The insulated type is more expensive because it requires tough fabric and creosote oil, though are at least more annoying. But they also don't electrocute you. Unfortunately, HV wire coils have no insulated version, although they transfer 512 RF per tick, which is what you need to run the arc furnace. But we ultimately decided not to use HV, and gave up on the whole wire thing altogether once we realized we could use the Flux networks mod, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But finally, we're ready to talk about the arc furnace, which required about 100 steel, somewhere around 100 steel, so you should have a lot of steel to make this thing. It literally requires 6 steel blocks at some point. The arc furnace multi-block can be accelerated by pointing an ender porcupine at the block in the center of the multi-block in the XY direction, but one block above the bottom. As you can see, it's highlighted here. We had to experiment a bit to find that, and I couldn't find any resources on it online, so I'm glad we located this so I could tell you. The arc furnace quickly smelts many items. It is the only way in this mod pack to get energetic alloy. You make it in an arc furnace with gold, redstone, and glowstone, although it's an ender IO thing and not an arc furnace thing. Arc furnaces accept main ingredients and additives, which combine with the ingredients. And arc furnaces consume the integrity of the 3 graphite electrodes placed in the top. Graphite electrodes cannot be automatically put into the arc furnace. It is impossible, which means if you ever want to automate diamonds, you need to find a way to automate electrodes. And there is a way. RW Tema has graciously provided us with the Enhanced Galgadorian Strengthened Graphite Electrode, which is simply a graphite electrode with unbreakable, so that it will never break. It requires Enhanced Galgadorian Metal. Enhanced Galgadorian Metal is a very expensive type of metal, which requires a lot of diamonds. If we want to make all 3 Enhanced Galgadorian Strengthened Graphite Electrodes, we need over 10 stacks of diamonds, which is a lot of diamonds. This is because diamonds each require a compressed coal ball, which is a dense coal ball in a metal press, which is 8 compressed coal balls, which are each 8 crushed coal. So that's 64 coal per diamond. So if you want 10 stacks of diamonds, I believe it's pretty much just 4,096 blocks of coal, which we are nowhere near having. Nevertheless, it is the only way to truly say that we have automated diamonds, which are required for true clay, so we have to do it. We have not yet improved our diamond production, but I can show you our basic diamond production system right now. Like I said, we've accelerated the coke oven, which produces coal, and I just need to get rid of this creosote oil in order for it to run again. That coal gets dumped into a mechanical crafter, which makes coal blocks and puts them into this block of coal barrel. We pulverize coal in the pulverizer to make pulverized coal. Once you craft it with flint, you can turn those coal balls into compressed coal balls in the metal press from Immersive Engineering, which can be accelerated by right-clicking on the center block with an acceleration wand. You also need a ball press, which I believe you can make by an engineer's workbench with metal press molds, and that blueprint can be made with crafting. Once you have all those coal balls, you can make your dense coal ball, which just requires a brick, which is gravel smelted. We have not yet actually automated the process of producing diamonds, but then you just stick a compressed coal ball with 4 lapis lazuli, and you get a diamond. The pulverizer is what really makes this a slow process, and also the coke oven. So eventually, we'll speed things up by accelerating this coke oven even more, or possibly making our own little setup, and I'll show you that when we get there. For my last trick, however, let's talk about how we got power to all these machines using the Flux network. Flux Networks is a mod that lets you transfer power wirelessly using a Flux controller, Flux storage, and points and plugs that transfer power. We'll go through it little by little, but the most important basic ingredient is flux, which is obtained by throwing redstone in fire or lava. Where is it? Did I get it? I did. Once you have those, you can make flux blocks, which require flux cores, which require obsidian and eye of ender. The core of your network is a flux controller, where, as far as I know, you can name the network. You can edit the network in the Edit Network section and name it. And you can change the access setting to public or private so other people can look at it and possibly edit it. Although I think since Arch owns it, I can change some things about it, but I'm not the network owner ultimately. Arch is. Flux storages hold power. We are using our gargantuan flux storage, which requires 128 million RF and is kind of a bitch to make. You can add power to the network using flux plugs, which automatically connect to conduits or anything which generates power. And you can draw that power using flux points. When you initially place a flux point down, it won't be connected to any network, but you can select a network, or you can use the Flux configurator, which copies settings from one block by shift right-clicking and pastes it by right-clicking. For some reason, you can't deselect a network after you've selected it. At least I have no idea how, and I don't want to press this delete button because I feel like having this network everywhere is pretty important. But anyway, that's how we power our arc furnace. You'll notice we're currently still trying to process over 2,000 pulverized coal, because every now and then one of us will hit, please create 64 compressed coal balls, and then Refined Storage will cry as it tries to shove 4,096 coal into this pulverizer and cannot, because it can only go that so fast. We really should automate it more generally, but we're waiting to get power, and as it happens, right now as I recorded this episode, we are working on the rainbow generator. Unfortunately, the rainbow generator is not what we're talking about next episode. We're talking about something about as interesting. Our nether star automation device, which has absolutely nothing to do with this farm to the right of it, which we'll talk about in a different episode completely. For now, however, that's it for today's episode. As always, if you have any comments for viewers as to tips they can use for this mod pack, please let us know. We'll see you in the next one.